Hello and welcome. We are watching our special broadcast fighting COVID-19, and as always we are joined by Dr. Randeep Guleria, Director at AIIMS, to take all the questions that people have in mind when it comes to the pandemic. Good evening and welcome to the program. Dr. Guleria, I have to start by asking you all about Covaxin. Well, that's the word for the hour at the moment. Bharat Biotech has been given at least the panel approval at the moment for emergency use. But the big question at the moment is the fact that its efficacy or the effectiveness its vaccine holds against COVID-19 is yet not known. So the question is Covaxin safe to take even without the efficacy data?
Yes, it is. I think it's a great day because now we would have two vaccines which will actually be available. But as we know, the Serum Institute vaccine has now got the emergency use authorization. There has been a limited approval that has been given to the Bharat Biotech. And what I can make out is that it's possibly only for emergency use in case we find that the vaccine, the Serum Institute vaccine is not that effective, or we find that the mutant strain is causing a huge increase in the number of cases.
You're saying a very important thing, sir. You're saying that it is only for emergency use. Could you explain to our viewers what exactly does that mean, emergency use authorization at this point?
Correct. So we have two issues. One is emergency use authorization and the other is in an emergency situation. Emergency use authorization is the standard terminology which is used not only in India but globally, even by the FDA, which is that when you have a drug or a vaccine which has come to a situation where you have some degree of data which shows that it is safe and it is having some degree of efficacy, and when you have a situation where you need to give something because no other effective treatment is available, as happens in a pandemic, then the regulatory authorities can give an emergency use authorization, but at the same time studies or data collection as far as that vaccine or drug continues, so that you get more robust data over a period of time. But because of the urgency, the vaccination is permitted under close monitoring.
Right.
In an emergency situation, that is the other thing that has been given to Bharat Biotech. What it means is that in case you have a situation where because of the variant virus or because of mutation in the virus, you find that you will need more than one platform of the vaccine to be able to vaccinate people, because you may have a less, let's say, immunity occurring because of the first vaccine, then you may be able to give the second one because they're different platforms. The Serum Institute vaccine uses a vector. It's using a chimpanzee adenovirus as a vector,
right,
whereas the Bharat Biotech is an inactivated whole virus vaccine. So there are different platforms, and possibly because of the worry of resurgence of cases, because currently India is in a very good situation. Our numbers have declined significantly, our mortality is low, and we are actually sort of in a much better situation than a large part of Europe, UK or the US. We don't want that trend to change, and if we have emergence or the variant coming in to India in a big way, we should be prepared to do something extraordinary so that we don't allow it to really spread.
But
I think that is the message behind
I
this.
understand that you're saying that both the vaccines at the moment which have been given emergency use approval use different techs. Could you explain to us, while we understand in detail what the Oxford vaccine is all about and the the virus that is induced in that, how different is that from what Covaxin is using?
So the Oxford is what we call a viral vector vaccine. It uses a chimpanzee adenovirus as a vector, and it goes into the cell. It stimulates the cell to actually produce antigen, that is the spike protein related antigen, and then the body produces antibodies to that antigen which are produced, and thereby causes both antibody and what we call cell mediated immunity. On the other hand, the Bharat Biotech is the standard platform which we use for various vaccines. That is, you take the virus and you inactivate it, and you give the inactivated vaccine which serves as the antigen which stimulates the body to produce antibodies and also the T cell immunity to some extent. Now, when you're giving the whole virus as an inactivated antigen, you are acting at multiple sites, and it's likely that therefore even if there are some variants of some mutants, it may be more effective. Therefore, I think
More
what we're trying
effective.
to,
All right, that's important.
yes, so what the regulators are trying to, I think, go at or trying to give an approval is that the Serum Institute vaccine is what will be the main vaccine, because that has got a clear approval.
Sure.
The Bharat Biotech vaccine is only as a backup for an emergency
I
situation,
see.
which may happen if we suddenly find that we are having an increase in number of cases, or even a reinfection occurring in cases who have been vaccinated, or there is a situation where there is a certain need to increase the number of doses that we need using different platforms. So this is, I think, just as a backup plan rather than the frontline plan, because that seems to be what the regulators, the expert panel has given, because the clearance seems to be for the Serum Institute vaccine.
Sure. That's a good piece of information to keep in mind. Well, talking about the panel and the expert panel that has given approval, the next step will be that it will go to the drugs regulator. Now, we understand that he's all set to address a press conference at 11 as well. Does he, in your understanding, have at this point, can he reject the expert panel recommendations as well? Is that a possibility?
Well, I don't think he could reject the panel. He could send it back for reconsideration if the drug controller finds that there is some lack of clarity or there is some need to get some more information. But I'm sure that the expert group will have looked at everything and given it more detailed analysis. So it's unlikely, but it's a possibility that if there is some doubt, it can be sent back for review if need be. Considering the urgency of the country wanting to have a vaccine, the fact that we're already started doing dummy runs and trying to really work on rolling it out, I don't think the vaccine program, the approval by the regulatory authorities will take very long now.
Right. Next question, sir. With 2 vaccines due now for the final approval over there, does India actually need a mix of vaccinations to inoculate the entire population? I say this because, you know, Dr. Fauci has talked about it, and he said that perhaps it's been seen in US and UK as well, where they're not just getting one brand of vaccines, but several at the moment.
So I think what is important is that you have a vaccine or vaccines which are efficacious and safe. After that, we have to see how do we roll it out. And if we have vaccines which are, we have more than one vaccines, but they're achieving the same sort of endpoint in terms of providing decrease in deaths and decreasing the number of cases, then it really will not matter too much if you are just going to stick with one vaccine or multiple vaccines, because multiple vaccines gives you the advantage of more doses, and therefore you can vaccinate a larger number of people in a shorter period of time. And when we look at our immunization program, let's say our universal immunization program, which is in children, where we give various vaccines, including the pentavalent vaccine, many of the vaccines come from different companies. So it's not that it has to be only from company A and you can't give company B's vaccine. So ultimately, when you have a program where you need to give a large
increases the availability is what you're saying, more doses then. Right.
Availability, so that we have enough doses as early as possible to vaccinate the number of people that we need to vaccinate in our country to decrease mortality and break the chain of transmission.
Right. Also, sir, then moving on this same point, now the UK dosage of interval between the 2 doses has been increased. It's gone from 4 weeks up to 12 weeks now. Now, while UK is talking about it, Dr. Fauci in US has said that he's not in the favor of this British approach altogether. Do you think that is something India can adopt at this point, or what should India's dosage regime really be?
So I think there are pros and cons. UK has adopted this policy because of the fact that with the first dose you get some degree of protection, although the protection is maximum after you get the second dose and usually 10 to 14 days after the second dose, because that is the time that you really needs for it to peak in terms of antibodies, your T cell immunity and your memory cell to get activated. Now, because of the increasing number of cases that UK is seeing, they are looking at a strategy where they are trying to vaccinate as many as possible, at least the first dose, and delay the second dose. Rather than giving it at 28 days, they're saying that we could give it even at 12 weeks, that is 3 months later. so that in the first phase we have enough people vaccinated to provide some degree of immunity.
So then
However,
comes the question, is one dose enough?
yes. So one dose is not totally enough. It's, I think, and that is what is being tried to say, sort of being brought up by Dr. Fauci, that we need to be careful when we do this, because all the studies that have been done using the standard protocol, except in the AstraZeneca vaccine, where they started off by, let's say, by chance, one group got half a dose and then they got the full dose. And there was some delay also in the dosage, and they were able to show that if you delay the dosage, you may have a better immune response. However, as of now, the standard dose still stays at day 0 and day 28. You could prolong it a little bit because it may be more easy to do in terms of logistics.
Okay.
But if you're going for 12 weeks, then it's going to be a bigger task. UK is doing it only because of the fact that they are in quite a sort of panic situation because of the increased surge in number of cases. And this is one solution that they're thinking about.
And the new strain, actually. Talking about UK over there, sir, the UK will also allow mixing of vaccines on rare occasions. Now, that's something that they're allowing as well. Is that advisable for, say, a country like India?
Currently, I don't think it's advisable because most of the literature or the studies have been done using the same vaccine given on the first dose and the second dose. We really don't know how the mixing works. Does it really give you better immunity or does it give you less immunity? Logistically also is going to be very difficult. And I don't think there are head-to-head comparisons looking at this. So in my opinion, currently we should not try to do all of that. We should stick to the same vaccine as far as 2 doses is concerned till we have more data and more literature. We will see change in the vaccinations as we go along. These are what I would call first generation vaccines right now. As more and more vaccines come in, more and more data come in, we may have better and second generation vaccines, which may allow us to, play around a little bit with the dosage, with the type of vaccines, and maybe give one or more vaccines. But currently, it's too early to start doing this.
All right. On that note, we're going to slip into a quick break. On the other side, we've got more questions, especially when it comes to the allergic reaction and how is India to deal with that, and what is going to be our response system as well. That's on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We are in conversation with Dr. Randeep Guleria, who is very graciously taking all our questions at this point. And it is all about the vaccine, since that's the dominating factor on all our minds. Dr. Guleria, my next question is about the allergic reactions. Now, all individuals will be monitored for around 30 minutes or so after the vaccine. That's what happened in the dry run also that we saw. But the question here is 30-minute enough window to actually watch out for these reactions?
So when we look at allergic reactions which happen, some of them are very mild, and that will be in the form of pain at the site of injection, fever which may be for 1 or 2 days, body aches, that may happen. These are mild reactions for which only symptomatic treatment is required. The concern that has come up mainly actually with the Pfizer vaccine is what we call severe anaphylactic reaction, because there have been around I think around 10 to 12 cases reported because of the Pfizer vaccine. It has not been seen that much with the Serum Institute, the AstraZeneca vaccine or the Bharat Biotech vaccine, which are going to be rolled out in India. But that was related to what was possibly felt to be one of the ingredients of that vaccine, which is polyethylene glycol, and data suggests that may be causing a severe anaphylactic reaction in some individuals who've had past exposure to this and have developed antibodies to polyethylene glycol, and they react by having a severe anaphylactic reaction. The severe anaphylactic reaction occurs within minutes of the injection, because as soon as this drug reaches the body, you start reacting, and you can have shortness of breath, they can be fall in your blood pressure, and like any allergic reaction. So most sites will monitor for any problem that they have for half an hour. If there is something that the individual has, he would be asked to stay on for a longer period of time. But if you're totally all right, at the end of 30 to 45 minutes, one could go back, but there will always be a contact number that you can contact as far as the healthcare worker is concerned for any subsequent problems that you have, even after 45 minutes for the next few days. because this is something that has to be done, that you have to monitor the individuals who have been vaccinated to look for any side effects which may occur subsequently. Remember, this is an emergency use authorization. The drug still has to be given in a mode that we monitor for side effects, and we continue to see what is the efficacy of the vaccine, especially when we're wanting to look at long-term immunity. So therefore, individuals who get vaccinated will still have to be monitored, not only for a few days, but for months to come, so that we don't miss out on any long-term side effects which may happen.
Right, on an average, a vaccine takes about 10 to 15 years to be built. So in this case, we've rushed in. So clearly, there's much more that we need to know about the vaccines just yet. But are there a particular section of people who are more vulnerable, say, to these allergic reactions, people who should be watching out for the reactions?
So there are some individuals who are having a more chances of allergy. They react more frequently, get frequent what we call anaphylaxis. Maybe, there are individuals who get when they have a sting or a bee sting, they get a very severe reaction to it, or very severe allergies. They may need to be a little bit more careful, but it's not a contraindication, and they could stay on in the health center for a longer period of time just to feel more reassured that they aren't getting any reaction.
All right, important note over there as well. Now, what about the vaccine priority groups? Now, today also we've got to hear that the Health Ministry has said at least the most prioritized section, that's about 3 crore people, will be given the vaccination free. Is there a way in which the government has identified these people on who will get it first?
So as far as prioritization is concerned, it's based on what is being done globally, that you need to work on 2 strategies. One strategy is to decrease your mortality, and therefore all of those who are at a high risk of getting severe COVID infection should be vaccinated first, and then those who are at a high risk of getting exposure because of their work should also be vaccinated first, and that is the frontline workers, the healthcare workers. So this number is coming up in India to be roughly around 30 crores, but we're not going to have 30 crore vaccines available on day one. So you will still have to prioritize that, and based on that you are starting off with the healthcare workers, because those are the people who are getting exposed the most, and it's probably logistically easier to do that. But as we do that, it's also sort of, you're learning also as you go along, and then you will have the plan in place for the other group, which is much larger, and those are people over the age of 50, irrespective of whether they have comorbidities or not, and using various platforms which the Government of India has. It could be your voter ID platform, it could be the census platform, or the other platforms. You could therefore form a list of individuals who are in that priority list, and you could further prioritize that. You could look at an age cutoff, that if you have limited doses to begin with, it could be above the age of 65, and then you move to the lower age. Say you do first 65 and above, then 60 and above, and go on like that. And at the same time, you develop a robust system which is being done through the CoWIN platform, that individuals who are on let's say the census list or the voter ID list are sort of populated into that program, keeping in mind that you may have some individuals who are not there on that list, and they can upload their data and get registered onto that, and subsequently you get an SMS saying that you are registered for the vaccine, this is the date for your vaccination, this is the site, and you come on such and such time at this site, and you will get yourself vaccinated. That is being worked out for that group. So I think there is a lot of planning going on, and that's part of it was the dummy run that was done across the country today.
Right, but the question is how much of the regular masses, and how soon will the regular masses get that message from the government? The question really is, by what time, going by the speed at which we are expecting the vaccination to kick in the country, what is your understanding of by when will the vaccine be available for masses?
So if we start talking of the high risk group, that is 50 and above, and the other groups, the first phase, I think they would get that vaccine would be available in the next 2 to 3 months. But what really matters are 2 things. One is how many doses are we able to get, and how many companies are getting an approval by the regulators, because they add on to the doses. So once we have a sufficient number of doses that are sort of promised every week, every fortnight, every month, then we can work out on a strategy that we do the program of vaccination on a regular interval, as say the pulse polio is done, and by that we keep on adding on to the number of people who need to be vaccinated each time and start covering more and more depending on the priority. So that has to be done, that has to be rolled out, but the factors is implementation and the doses that are available.
Right. And then the question, since the exams have been talked about, CBSE is also talking about, examinations that are going to happen next year onwards. Is there a need at this point that there should be a vaccination for those 18 and the younger population as well at this point? When do you think a vaccination will be available, or should it be made available for them?
So currently the data from safety of vaccine for children and for pregnant women is not there, and therefore we are not really sure whether it's safe, and that's why it's not in, no regulatory approval is there across the world for this category. But it's very important for us to understand that as schools open, we will have this risk of children getting the infection. Luckily, children get a mild infection and we don't see a severe infection or increasing mortality in children. But they still are infectious. So if we have children going to school and if one of them has COVID-19, he can give it to other school children and they can carry that infection home and then give it to their grandparents or the other people at home, and that can cause severe illness. So I think at some point in time, one will have to look at how we can vaccinate children. I'm aware that already there are studies looking at, studies have started looking at safety of vaccination in children, and hopefully in sometime this year we will have some robust data which will say that these vaccines are safe in children, and then one could look at vaccinating children also, so that we can further prevent transmission and be more confident about opening schools as far as infection is concerned.
All right, Dr. Guleria, we'll leave it there for the moment. Exciting times are ahead. This is a Bonanza 2021 with the vaccine news coming in. We wait to see what happens next. We'll see you again next week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.